It's interesting to think about. This is the second franchise I'm doing because, I used to be a Smash dude. Yes, embarrassing enough. And oftentimes people discuss, well, if we were allowed to have one fourth party series in Smash, which would it be? Now, my first pick is that guy, Optimus Prime. I mean, he's one of the most iconic characters of all time. Transformers is multinational media. And he's actually recognized across the world by pretty much everyone instead of just two countries, like Goku, which is Japan and South America for some reason. So because of that, I think Optimus Prime is the best pick. Plus, he's red, white, and blue, much like Mario. Now, my second pick is also another series that I really like. Godzilla. I mean, come on. It was pretty much the first crossover series where you made your own characters and then you cross them over. I guess you could argue Universal Monsters was first, but those were adaptations, Frankenstein and Dracula. Those were old books before they were licensed movie characters. Whereas Godzilla, almost everything was exclusively made up. And today I'm going to be taking a look at something really interesting. Godzilla reaction figures. Reaction figures are interesting because I think originally they just took series that had abandoned old molds, like Alien and probably something else. And then they just started saying, fuck it, we're just going to make every line in existence, but make them Star Wars, counter Star Wars styled, which isn't a terrible idea. However, they did one of Transformers, and they're still doing it. And it's we already have those. They're called Action Masters. Well, those are more like G.I. Joes, but still. But this is good, because Godzilla I always felt was a series that really needed to... let me move this up a bit. Yeah. Godzilla is always a series that I thought... it had a lack of stuff, like toys. Either they are very, very bad, very hard to find, or not very publicly available, or they're expensive as hell. And we don't really have that much commonplace Godzilla stuff. And, I was always like, well, these movies that came out the 70s, the 80s, well, actually the 50s, but those were before toys were available. So, it makes sense. It makes plenty sense. And on the back, you can see the rest of the figures in Wave 1. You have Godzilla 54, Godzilla 57, which, if I remember, that was Godzilla Raids Again, right? Which is kind of unfortunate, because we don't have an Anguirus to pair him up with. We got Mechagodzilla, Rodan, Mothra, and fucking Jet Jaguar. Now, the place I got these at were at an old toy shop where they just sell either new or mostly old stuff. And they had all of them except for Jet Jaguar, otherwise I'd be reviewing him. And, well, I wanted to get at least one Godzilla. I got 54 because he looks a little bit... This doesn't really look like 1954 Godzilla, because that kind of looks like a vicious standard Showa version, whereas he kind of looks kind of goofy. I think these figures were about the same. Mothra, never really liked Mothra. Mothra's always been kind of like a basic bitch kaiju. Out of all the big, iconic, of the big five, Godzilla, Mechagodzilla, Mothra, Rodan, Ghidorah. Godzilla and Rodan, they're like dinosaurs, okay? Mechagodzilla's cool. Ghidorah's the Joker of the series, but not in the fucking we live in a society way. And they have Mothra. It's she's just a big bug. We always get on Ibira's case or Kumongo's case for just being big animals, but that's just a big moth. At least a lobster or a mantis or a spider. Those are cool animals. But that's just a moth. Looks more like a butterfly than a moth anyways. And then I do like Rodan, but I really don't like the Showa Rodan, or at least the very early ones. He looks really stupid. And then obviously they didn't have a Jet Jaguar. I might get a Jet Jaguar. And then, well, this is going to be a double review because I saw this and I needed to get it because this is my favorite design of Mechagodzilla. The Heisei one looks really dumb. I think we can all agree on that. And the Millennium one, Kiryu or whatever, he's cool, but I just think this is a much nicer design. Kind of the same thing with Gigan. And I think in terms of character selection, it's kind of weird because this is like, you got Mechagodzilla. Because these would probably be released around the time of like the 70s, and then you got these two because they're pretty iconic. But like, Jet Jaguar was kind of infamous. Like, people love Jet Jaguar now, but back then everyone thought he was stupid. And then there's two like 50s Godzillas instead of like one from, you got the childish face looking one from some of the later films. I think they could have used like a Megalon or a Gigan, but we'll take a look at Series 2 when that gets released, if it hasn't already been released, because I'll talk about that later. So yeah, we're going to get these opened up. I usually don't like talking about figures in the packaging, because just talk about the figures, but this is like a different experience, and I'm going to cut these out. Originally I was going to be like, I'm going to keep them in the box, but I'm not an on-the-card collector. I'll keep the card, but, you know, there's not really a point. These things aren't very valuable, so don't really need it. I just think having a little Godzilla stuff is pretty cool. So I'm going to get these opened up, and we'll have another look at Godzilla Mechagodzilla. Cat wants to say something. Say hello. Alright. Sorry, ma'am. Alright. Oh, I'm sorry. You trying to bite me now? Yeah, cat moment. Alright, see you in a second. Okay, they're out of the packaging, and I will tell you, there is one that is significantly better than the other. Let's just put this one off to the side. We'll talk about Godzilla first. And, well, oh, they got some stuff at the bottom. What does that say? Toho, Super7 China. Well, I mean, if you're thinking about Godzilla figure that was made in the 70s, this is pretty much it. I mean, it's a very, very nice figure of Godzilla. There's not much else to say if you want to talk about like a Kenner style figure or like a very early Hasbro one. For instance, here's scale. This is Kal Katarn from Star Wars. Not exactly a Kenner figure. When was it even made? 1998. Okay, so sorry if you couldn't see that, but yeah, it's a 1998 figure. He still kind of looks remotely Kenner-ish, and they scale pretty cool together. I really like the texturing on this dude. It's very nice. It reminds me of like one of those Godzilla egg figures. Texturing is very nice, and the detail. Unfortunately, I will say the major issue with this, it doesn't really look like Godzilla from the first movie. Like, if this was just a standard Godzilla, it'd be pretty much perfect, but, you know, it's supposed to be based off of one of those weird-looking, obvious puppet-looking ones. I mean, I get it. It's supposed to be limited in detail. Kind of like how Luke Skywalker doesn't really look like Mark Hamill or the original figure. But, I mean, this is kind of like if you ever played Five Nights at Freddy's, the little Atari minigames. They're already a little too detailed to be an Atari game, and this is a little too detailed to be like a Kenner figure. So they could have at least made it look a little bit more distinct, because let me tell you, the other one, I might review that one. I don't think I'm going to get it. That looked very much the same as this guy. In terms of head articulation, yeah, in terms of articulation, he's got the head that moves back and forth, arms rotate, and the legs move outwards. That's fine. Kind of glad they didn't do the T legs. I don't know what you'd call that joint. T joint, maybe? And he even move his tail. His tail is actually not too long, which, again, is a little inaccurate for Godzilla, but for like a little Godzilla toy that's supposed to be like an old-ass figure in the style of like Kenner or early Hasbro, that's pretty good. So I guess we'll end it with like an up-close look. Yeah, that definitely does he have ears? I guess old Godzilla would have ears, wouldn't he? Let me check. Oh yeah. That's exclusively Godzilla from 1954. Yeah, this is back when Godzilla looked less like a reptile and more like a, well, like a burn victim almost, because it's like a huge metaphor for the big atomic bomb, atomic explosion. So I guess that's kind of a dead giveaway. So maybe if you don't like that, you could get one of the older ones. But I mean, besides that, it's a pretty standard Godzilla, and yeah, it's a nice little figure to hold. It's very high quality in terms of like weight and plastic material. So overall, I mean, if you got a kid and they love Godzilla, this is a very nice one to get for them. Like, kind of put it with, especially if they have like you're giving them Power of the Force 2 toys, you know, like this. Which I don't know why you wouldn't. This is the best toy line that Star Wars has ever made. Maybe I might make a video on that, but I unironically think so. But yeah, if you have a bunch of those, this guy will go really good with kids if they like Godzilla and they like Star Wars. I don't think I'm going to rate this. But maybe I will when I get like the rest of the line. But yeah, very nice Godzilla. Very standard. Might get another one so he doesn't have the ears. Because otherwise, this is an amazing Godzilla. And unfortunately, next we get a Mechagodzilla who's a little less than great. Now I do have a small QC issue. I mean, I don't know what that is, but that has caused an issue with like an incredibly loose arm out the box, and yeah, he also doesn't have as good quality when it comes to the plastic. I mean, it's still durable. It's still very durable, but it feels a little bit on the cheaper side. He doesn't really look like a robot because he's white. He's just a very light, pale gray. And, well, Jaguar has nice silver over him. And, like, even the old C-3PO was, like, you know, chrome. I'm not saying make this guy chrome, but, I mean, like, silver paint wouldn't be bad. And I know it's supposed to emulate, like, an old toy, but, I mean, even still, I think this one might be a bit of a stretch. I mean, still, this doesn't really look too much like an old toy. Also, I don't really like the head sculpt. Let me move this back up to show why. It's just, I mean, from the side, it looks, well, it looks like Mechagodzilla, but from the front, it just looks a little on the dopey side. Maybe that's how it's supposed to look, but it just looks like it got squashed a little bit. And yeah, it looks like he got his head smushed from, like in Kill Bill. But yeah, that's a pretty unfortunate part of the figure. So, in terms of articulation, he's pretty much the same, although his legs... Yeah, I don't mind like going out just a little bit like this guy. That's fine. That's still, I feel like, is fine articulation. But that's, come on, man. That's nothing. I feel like they could have had it move right here instead of right here, and it would have been all right. Very bad seam. Maybe I got unlucky. I don't know. Arms, I like how they're robotic enough. Very, I do want to say one thing. This guy is a little bit pointy. He's not going to draw blood or anything, but a little uncomfortable for a kid to handle. And I know these aren't supposed to be for kids. They're for adult collectors who really like the old Star Wars toys. Tail doesn't move, unfortunately. But, I mean, his head, arms, and legs do kind of move. So, I don't know. He looks a bit more articulate. He looks a little less... I don't know how you'd call it, but he looks like he'd articulate better than a Godzilla, but Godzilla has much better articulation, mostly due to the legs and the tail, whereas this guy's just kind of like a, what is that? And you couldn't have found a way to make that joint move? I mean, oh, Mr. Statica, that would have uglied up the sculpt. That did not stop old figures back in the day. Have you seen their Emperor Palpatine? He literally has the fucking, the T-joint, and his legs are separated, even though he's wearing a cloak. That's kind of the whole point of these old dudes. They're supposed to look like old toys, right? So yeah, I don't hate this figure. Ooh, MG. That's a nice detail. I don't hate this figure, but I do think it could have been a lot nicer. And I feel like they're going to do a repaint of him in Wave 2, and it's kind of inspired. But instead of like doing like a mishmash between the two, they could have very easily just made this guy, but I don't know, chrome, shiny. Or at least if you're not going to make him chrome, make him like a darker gray, because that's kind of how he looked. He's a bit plasticky looking in the movie anyways, so yeah, that would have been nice. So, That's a bit unfortunate. The dude I was looking more forward to, because this is one of my favorite kaiju, ends up being a little on the weak side. Maybe I just got unlucky with this. In fact, doing with that crease, I'm more than willing to bet, yeah. It's still not bad. It's just unfortunate with that. But I'm just gonna put them on like a shelf. Right, I got like 3 shelves. I'll put these guys on the smaller because it'll be a tiny collection, as opposed to my Beast Wars stuff and my Mega Constructs Pokemon. You want me to review that, by the way? Those figures? I think that would be a fun video. Because they are fun. I do like Godzilla, and I do want a nice little Godzilla collection. The only other series of Godzilla I was even thinking about collecting was the Mini-Mates, but I think I missed my chance on those. Plus, they look a little worse than these guys, even if they pose better. I mean, I think the only Mini-Mates I got was like the Marvel vs. Capcom 3 with Arthur, which I think I tried reviewing for a while, but it didn't really work out. So yeah, that's about it for these... What is it? Super7? Yeah, Super7 Godzilla stuff. I like them. I think that they are a nice success, even if I went a little bit harsher on this guy. He's still well detailed, even though he should be a little under detailed. But they are very nice representations of the Godzilla crew. And I'm really excited for Wave 2, which I will be talking about right now. Now, as for the second wave, we got... looks pretty decent. We got Godzilla 62. I'm pretty sure that's from Godzilla vs. King Kong. And then Godzilla 84, where he looked like a fucking asshole in that 180 solo movie that I never watched. And then we got a half-transformed Mechagodzilla, which is... not loving that. That looks kind of dumb, but I mean, whatever. Remolds, repaints, you gotta do it. For every new, unique mold, you gotta have like a repaint. What are you gonna repaint Mechagodzilla into? Shiny version, maybe. I don't know. I mean, you did that with Jet Jaguar, but anyways, the other 3 are pretty great. You get Hedorah. I don't know if it's Hedorah. That's how I pronounce it, but I'm just gonna say Hedorah. That sounds a little less butchered, I guess. I don't know. We get King Ghidorah, which I'm definitely gonna get, and then I'm coming. Yes. So if you're a fan of Godzilla and you don't have any Godzilla stuff, because it's either really shitty or it's too expensive, I definitely recommend you hop on and get some of these. I'm probably gonna go back to the store and get the rest of the collection. Well, not to. I'll just get Mothra and Rodan, and then see if I can get Jet Jaguar somewhere else. Because I really, really like them. They are very nice. So that's going to be about it. I'll give them... I won't rank them from S to F. If I did, they'd probably be like a B+. So that means they'll probably be getting like an 8. He'd be getting an 8, and he'd be given a 7. 7 doesn't mean a C. It's very good, but has a lot of flaws, you know. But this is very nice. So, do you want me to review more of these? Do you want me to review more stuff other than Transformers? That's a trick question. I will be reviewing more Transformers stuff. I'll also be doing a video on like my favorite pickups of the year. Not 10. I got way more stuff, way too much stuff to do 10. But yeah. Maybe do some Mega Constructs Pokemon stuff. Maybe do some Mega Constructs minifigures. Who knows? So, that's going to be about it for this review. I still don't know how to end these.